We can avoid the 9.4-second pit stop, Laz, if you'd like. I'd rather ask you about Aston Martin, because the way we talked about McLaren and just how incredible this turnaround has been mid-season is the way that we were referring to Aston Martin and the way that they turned things around from last year to this year at the start of, podium after podium after podium with Fernando Alonso. It feels like they've kind of lost their shine at this point. What do you feel like has changed from the beginning of the season to now? Is it just other teams have brought upgrades and are doing a better job with their setups and cars?
Absolutely, it's a relative game. Where your competitors are defines where you are. So if all these competitors, McLaren, Mercedes are bringing significant upgrades to the car, and Aston Martin haven't been able to match it, well, that advantage they had at the start of the year, which was hugely impressive because of where they had come from, it can get very small very, very quickly. And so, they brought an upgrade in Canada, but another thing they've had to deal with, and this sounds like a good thing, but it results in quite a lot of moving parts, is that they've shifted factory from the factory where they designed and originally built that car at the start of the year to this brand new spectacular factory on the same plot of land, but it's all new. It's all new machines. It's an all new design office, and inevitably, I think there's going to be a little bit of an interruption. They always knew there would be a slight interruption. Of course, the long-term gains of that factory are predicted to be huge. In terms of their ability to bring upgrades to the car, that's going to accelerate massively. But there is always, a kind of a teething time when you've got to get things right, get things in the right place. So I do wonder whether that's been a slight factor. But if you listen to the drivers, I think they do just look at the other teams and they say that they have been slightly outdeveloped at recent races. And there was a change in the tyre construction as well that happened in Silverstone, which Fernando Alonso has pointed to. Most drivers you talk to say the difference between the two tyres is very minimal. You can barely feel it. But of course, each car is different and each car uses the tyres in different ways. So it seems like the Aston Martin drivers aren't quite as comfortable with the new tyres, which have a stiffer construction. The idea behind that was to deal with just the sheer force that these cars are putting through the tyres. These were actually the tyres that Pirelli had designed for next year, and they had them all signed off and ready to go for next year, but they brought them forward because they were basically a bit concerned about how fast these cars were going. They were going faster than the teams had said they would be by this point of the season, the predictions they'd had in place, so they had to bring forward these tyres. But of course, the changing construction can change the feeling for a driver. Again, going back to that confidence thing I was talking about earlier, and if the driver loses a little bit of confidence, seems like with the Aston Martin, it's a little bit of rear end performance, confidence going into corners. If that goes, a lot of performance can go with it. So it's undoubtedly a combination of all these things, that puts the team back. But then again, as Nate was talking about with Alpine, well, they actually have a floor coming this weekend, Alpine in Spa, which they're confident is going to be a step. But how many times have we heard these teams say, we're going to bring this performance upgrade, they're probably in their mind thinking, although they never share this with us, 0.2, 0.3 seconds. But if you do that and all your rivals bring 0.2, 0.3, or even more, 0.4 seconds, over a few races, then you're going, you're either staying where you are or you're going backwards. So yeah, it is all a relative game. And I think, a lot of these teams are looking long-term as well. I think Aston Martin as well, they're thinking about, developing the concept. Okay, they made a big step, but how do they continue that? How do they continue to hunt down Red Bull and get there? So it's I think it's a case of we'll just see it move backwards and forwards. I think once we go to some slightly different circuits, I'm interested when we go to Singapore to see if we see a bit of a resurgence from Aston Martin on some real low speed corners where they have a strength. So but it keeps it exciting to watch, at least behind a Red Bull. Yeah. We talked about it so many times in this podcast. Remove Max Verstappen from the championship, and you have this incredible battle for what is second place, but would have been the title. So Aston Martin would absolutely be in there, but at the moment it's just slipping away from them very slightly.
Well, if you remember at the beginning of the season, it felt like, yes, of course you have Red Bull at the top, but then in that second tier for second place, it was Ferrari, Aston Martin, and Mercedes. And we were thrilled to be throwing Aston Martin in that conversation. Now it feels like things have shifted where your second tier consists of Mercedes and McLaren. And then you'd even have a third tier where Ferrari and Aston Martin currently sit, which just speaks to, of course, as you say, it's a relative game, the work that McLaren has done. I'm curious, Nate, you mentioned earlier just how incredible it was when Lewis finished his qualifying lap on Saturday in Hungary, and obviously the fans went crazy. We had a new pole leader in pole position. Was it an anomaly, do you think? Was he just outperforming the car on that day, or is that pace that we should come to expect from this Mercedes moving forward in Hungary? Excuse me, in Belgium.
Yeah, it's hard to work out with Mercedes. I think Lando made a few jokes about it, didn't he? He said, like, for as much as Lewis is downplaying the pace of their car, they've got a pretty good car there. Just compared to the Red Bull, obviously everybody looks pretty bad. Hungary is a weird one for them as well. They were pole there last year with George Russell, and I think it just suits that car very, very well. But clearly Mercedes, I think you're right. I think you've absolutely summed it up, nail on the head there, Katie, with those. If you were to put two teams into that second tier, it would be Mercedes and McLaren. Right now, anyway, that can obviously change. So I don't know. I think that, pole like Max looked pretty upset not to be on pole position. I think he knew he should have been there. He mentioned he made a mistake through the final hairpin. I think coming through, got a bit wide into. That's anyone watching can see my impression of a driver getting loose through a corner. It shows you how little I know about. Yeah, it shows you how little I know about actually racing an F1 car. But yeah, so in terms of can they get more pole positions, I think that's going to be circuit specific, but they're definitely in that fight with McLaren. And I think that, I think there is an element. You talk to a few other teams in the paddock. A few other teams do kind of look at Mercedes, and some of the comments you hear from Toto or from Lewis, and are like, you guys are still doing pretty good. You're still in a pretty good position. But obviously, I guess they're coming from the position of before their level was we're the best, and now
the
we're
before
second,
times.
Third. Yeah, so you can kind of understand why they're down on themselves a lot. But no, I think they're still competitive. Are they competitive enough to satisfy Lewis Hamilton? I was going to say no, but apparently he's just signed a 2-year deal, according to unnamed 10-year-old, 7-year-old. Wow, it's even worse, Laurence. We really, yeah.
I'm not sure. I threw it out there.
They were early. I think they were early teens, but still, it doesn't bode well for the rest of us journalists there. But no, if Mercedes was in the position that Ferrari or definitely Alpine were in, I think we'd be talking about it a lot more. I think they're doing well, and Red Bull's just making everybody look bad.
With that, my favorite part each week leads us to predictions. Who would like to go first?
I'm feeling confident because I got 2 of the 3 last week. I think I don't want to point fingers, but I think both of you guys only got the 1. So I actually said Perez third, and I said Verstappen first. I put Lewis second. Fernando, sorry, that's right.
I have to go back to my records.
Yes, but I knew something was going to happen with Perez. My crystal ball was right in qualifying, and then he would fight back. So I'm gonna be
writing it down.
Yeah, what? I think this is the week I'm going to do it. Max doesn't finish. There's a lot of rain. Just think something's going to happen.
Wow.
Norris win. Perez second. Piastri third. Let's go for it. That's my Norris number 1. Perez number 2. Piastri number 3. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, maybe I'm buying fully into the McLaren hype. Maybe I'm fully into the trap, but why not? This is the place to do it.
Did you throw out all your green garb and just switched it to orange now, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't. That's the only color I know now. Is papaya orange, as they call it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I feel bad because I was massively on the Alonso hype train at the start of the year, but that hype train is clearly pulled into the station and is having repairs done. You can't catch it at the moment.
Great analogy. Laz.
Well, Nate's gone extreme, so I'm going to try and just claim some points back against him and go quite one, because Red Bull are going to have a big advantage here. I think, like a serious advantage. Not only because if it rains, the fastest car in the dry usually tends to be the fastest car in the wet, and you want a huge amount of downforce, and they have that. But even in the dry, I think Eau Rouge is the limiting factor at Spa. It's a big compression, and if you can run your car slightly higher but still get a lot of downforce to deal with the compression, so that it isn't bottoming out massively, and then you can have downforce around the rest of the lap. That's a real strength for Red Bull. So I'm going to say it's a Red Bull 1-2. I can't remember the last time we had a Red Bull 1-2. Was it Miami?
I think it was Miami.
Feels like it was Miami.
Yeah.
It must have been Miami.
Which is mad, isn't it?
Perez, Max. So I just want to be clear. You want Max first, then Perez second?
Yeah, because I'm going boring, trying to get some points. I am going to go Max first, Perez second. Okay. And then in third place, I'm just going to pick a name because it's so close. Lewis Hamilton. No, actually, no, wait. George Russell, because we haven't seen much from George recently. I think he's due a bit of a bounce back.
Okay, beautiful.
Nice.
Max Sergio, George Russell for Laurence Edmondson. Okay, because
I just want to clarify. I'm pretty sure Max won in Miami.
I was going to
No,
say it
Sergio-
was.
No,
Yeah,
Max
Sergio was
but
on pole.
It was the last
Perez,
one. Too.
Perez was leading, and
Yeah.
Max finished. In
Perez
like,
was on pole.
Yeah, Max
Sorry.
started
Yeah.
in like 13th or something, and then climbed to beat Perez.
But that is the one race where we all sat and watched it in a room together. That's probably,
We did.
that, and we were slowly like, oh no, Max is going to get him. He has got him, and that's the race over.
That was our lovely voice of God, aka Dave, our producer. Thank you for fixing my error. I appreciate that. But this is not going to be an error because I am correctly going to predict the following: Max Verstappen,
Nice.
Lewis
And
Hamilton,
that's it.
Lando Norris.
Oh, nice.
I don't know.
Nice.
I mean, I'm way back. I'm way at the
Katie
rear.
is
at this
definitely
point.
vying for Danny Rick to get that 2024 Red Bull seat.
Yeah. What's Perez done to you, Katie? What has he said to you?
I had him in my. Did I not have him in my 3 last week?
I think
can't
all of us did
remember.
have him actually last week, but we weren't kind to him. We were still saying third, which, to be fair, was where he finished. So maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was being accurate. I mean,
Okay.
yours is way more likely to happen than mine, and Lawrence's is way more likely to happen to
I
mine.
appreciate you gambling with it. I'm too much of a scaredy cat. I appreciate the loud out there ones because we need to shake things up. We'll see if
Confirming
that
you
happens.
all had Perez last week.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's good.
Okay.
Nate was the only one that had him in the right position.
Let's
Okay.
go.
We didn't need the extra fact. Okay, Dave.
No.
Just-
I think Dave needs to clarify these things when they're when they're there to be clarified.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.